Hello, hello. Well, I suppose it's going to always be said by many who have come and discovered their lifelong, hopefully, partner in the Philippines. But I know that many of you have often thought, if I go back as a failure, back to where I came from, my friends will just say, well, I told you so. I told you you were crazy going halfway around the world just to follow a lady. She took you to the cleaners, so they say. Well, it's a common occurrence, that's for sure. After all, it's nothing to do with the Philippines. It's 2025. And we live in a world where life is becoming harder and harder for anybody to make a living, to get ahead, to achieve one's goals in life. And none less than a Filipino who is struggling to make ends meet. You know, who can we blame when we build a home, we try and create a wonderful lifestyle, and we hope that it'll all work out? Sure, there'll be a few bumps along the way, but isn't that normal in a relationship? Isn't that normal in a marriage? You know, there's this very well-worn word, transactional. What it means is that, it's one of those things, well, of course it's about money, but a lot of you will just refuse to accept that. Some who think they're wise will always say, well, it's always best to hold your money close to you. Don't be so keen to spend it. Rent, don't build. Great idea. But it doesn't either guarantee that they're going to be successful in their relationship either. Because at the end of the day, it's the lifestyle that you've created in your own image for her. In a sense that you've tried to give her the best. You've tried to join in with the best with her. No one's going to create a world that is only just for her, or maybe her and her children. There's an expectation that you will both enjoy the journey together. And of course, that is a wonderful dream that many of us all hope will be the case. But the thing is that, as I said, it's not always reality. Bubbles burst. You can do your level best to make things try and work out, but in the end, the individual who you choose may well have an ulterior motive, and that is to lift herself up, to get herself to where she believes she should be financially, and from then on, cast you aside. It's not necessarily done maliciously or by design. It's just one of those things. I mean, the reality is, why would they choose an old man? Whether you're handsome or not, and they'll always tell you you're pogy or guapo. It's a common occurrence. They'll also constantly tell you, I love you, darling. You're so kind. You're a wonderful man. Of course, it doesn't always come that they are going to ask you for some special event or maybe a nice hairdo tomorrow morning. The point is that I'm saying is that it's not always done vindictively. It's not always done with an ulterior motive. It just happens. People live their lives as the best they can. But for us foreigners, we have to realize that why on earth would they pick an old man? Why wouldn't they pick somebody from their own town, somebody with a background, maybe went to school, college together, sort of fell in love, had a heartbreak, maybe had a soft spot for him, and then one day, boom, they fell in love, and they lived happily ever after, as a Filipino and a Filipina would. After all, they have so much in common: their culture, their history, their own growing up together. You know, you often hear of people in the West meeting a childhood sweetheart and follow them through their lives, and they often cross paths later on in life and live out their lives together in a perfect relationship. Now, to suggest that, for instance, a Filipino can't do that would be a bit naive. But the reality is that when you create a life for somebody else, you do it, I suppose, in a selfish way, because you're trying to make her life as happy as possible, and you're using your money and influence to do it. You can say, well, we live in a modest home, we're renting maybe, I'm not going to commit myself totally in case I need a plan B, you know, that horrible thing that they refer to all the time. But that's not, again, a recipe for success. You may pick somebody who's maybe not as beautiful as the ones you plan to live with, and it might last a little longer. But it's like anything in this world. You have to be friends first, and friendships take time to form. You know, the hardest thing to get my head around is how somebody can just pounce and become married in a matter of weeks, maybe months. You have hardly understood how that person ticks at that point. You don't know the little niceties that are waiting you around the corner, when they get irritated, when they get angry, and how they react to things that you've said or done that have a niggling effect on them. You probably watch my videos and others who have talked about Tampo, that dreadful thing where people send you to Coventry. They go off in their room and don't talk sometimes for days. Very hard to get your head around that. But that's very much a part of a Filipino cultural aspect of their lives. They might say, well, my wife's never done that. But of course, aren't you lucky? What else has she not done that you feel is the benefit of meeting her over someone else? I suspect that maybe the reason it works so well with a lot of us is that we are prepared to turn the other cheek, to ignore certain behaviors and just get on with living our lives on a parallel lifestyle with them. After all, if you don't put too much pressure on them, they're fine. They'll tick over like a fine motor. You won't get too many shudders in the motor itself. The thing is that they are very emotional people. They make their choices based upon emotion. We might use logic, but their word of logic is emotion. They will look at you and you will look back at them and think, why are they looking at me that way? And you'll realize that their mind is ticking over in a completely different way as they evaluate what you've said or done. Try and have a realistic approach to what's going on, and that's a waste of time, because you're better off just to accept that that's the way she wants it, and that's the way it's going to be. Now, you can deprive her of this and deprive her of that, but the stick and carrot doesn't work here. In fact, if anything, it tends to widen the gap between the two of you, because they then would see that as being selectively mean, being almost against the law, almost, because to install or attempt to somehow put pressure on emotionally, psychologically, there's laws against that here in the Philippines. So one has to be so careful within a relationship that you don't overstep that mark, because they're more than happy to snap and do something stupid than sort things out with you at the start. You know, you can sit down and you can beg, you can ask for forgiveness over something you've never done, but it nevertheless is required of you by your partner. She's adamant that you've done something that's offended her or upset her, and no matter what you say or do, it will not change. They need you to confess. They need you to own up to something that you haven't done. But try turning that around on them, and you'll find an absolute wall of silence, followed by tempo. How dare you suggest that? And you say, but hang on a minute, you said it to me. So what's all right for you, surely it's okay for me as well. No, sorry mate, it doesn't work like that here in the Philippines. It's just simply not possible. The reality is that no matter how old our partner is, whether she's a young, sexy little 18 to 22-year-old that you scooped off the high school floor, made your wife, and now is your everyday companion, to maybe a widow with the children grown up, living in a fancy home, they're all the same. You will find these issues all the way along, and it's how you handle those issues that will determine whether or not you're going to have an easy life or a difficult one. But whatever happens when you come to the Philippines, you've got to remember you're on a different planet here. It's the homeland of Filipino and Filipino. It is called the Philippines because that's what they come from, the Philippines. And you've come from somewhere in the West where life, you can't even judge a Filipino or a Filipina from the ones you've met overseas, because they're reset. They've revalued their lives. They've understood that they can't all behave the way they did back home. But for those that have brought them back, retired here in the Philippines, it's like meeting a new person, because it's amazing how quickly they fit back into the little slot of the way life was before they went overseas. And this is where you have also got to realize that's the Filipino way. It's like 9 o'clock is the appointment. If they rock up at 9:30, quarter to 10, that's Filipino time. Don't get upset about it. She's there. That's the reality. We're used to 9 o'clock is 9 o'clock. Make sure you're there at 5 to 9. You know, going into shops and finding things not available that were available yesterday and now suddenly aren't. Or going and finding out about a TV that you thought would have YouTube and Netflix on a smart TV. And then you discover, oh, it's only good for YouTube. Huh? How's that the case? That's the whole point. Things change, your expectations, your understanding of things changes every day. Just because you pay a little bit more for internet connection doesn't mean it's any better. It just means you're paying more for internet connection. So, guys, you really do have to get your head around living in the Philippines. And I can't see any better way than coming over for a period of time, 6 months to a year, living on your own, getting to know how things are on your own. Because to find somebody who you're going to get on with, you need to date them. You need to, a horrible word, date them. You need to know them in a good roundabout way, in so many different situations, for you to test the waters. You can't just jump into bed and say, oh, she's great, because that's only part of your life with her. At the end of the day, she can hold you in the middle of the night. And it's lovely to have that kind of closeness. But if you, in the rest of your day, are arguing, squabbling, throwing dishes at each other, smashing glass tops on tables, it makes no difference at all, because that's not solving anything. The only way to solve things is to try and understand how the other party is. The constant battle that one often gets is, you don't understand me, you never listen to me. How many people do you know that are foreigners who've told you about your wife saying, you never listen to me? How can we not listen? Because it's such a delight to hear them talking our own language instead of their own. When they're mad at you, they'll walk around making muttering the words, which you know are bad words. But that's their frustration. And that's the whole point. Your communication with her is often frustrated by her non-understanding of what you're trying to get across. So guys, I wish you luck, and I do hope that when you do find her, that you hold on to her and find the necessary tools to nail her to the floor, so to speak, so you don't lose a good one. So that's my thought for the day, and I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll no doubt catch up with you again soon. Bye now.